Guys, we are back with another episode of the F2 Basketball Podcast, and I'm really excited to have Kotie Kimble back with us. He's from Charlotte. He's been an assistant there for going on year 3, right?
Yes.
Kotie, thanks for being here with us, man.
Awesome. So happy to be on. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure.
Dude, you got the beard. You got a new look going. I know that you're also getting married soon. Congratulations on that news, brother.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
A new
man. And
quarantine look.
right, a quarantine look. Okay. I tried to grow my hair out, but this is the best that I got. Um, so look, man, like Kotie and I know each other from a really long time ago, being connected at Coastal Carolina University. And Kotie, you have had quite the path to get to where you are as an assistant, coaching under Ron Sanchez there. And we talked a lot about that in our last episode, but we are now like, dude, I know that everybody's in an uncharted territory, but college basketball has taken such a uncertain turn in these past 5 months. Like, talk to me a little bit of how the COVID pandemic has made it challenging for you guys in the recruiting process. We work with all kinds of players, but from college or from high school juniors and seniors, like that are looking to get on board with somebody. I know this has been a really difficult time for them. What's it been like for you guys?
Man, you're right, Colin. It's unprecedented in a lot of ways and the times that we're in. And yes, it has been challenging. I mean, for us as coaches, we've had to find ways to be, creative in how we're doing things. And, from a recruiting standpoint, we haven't been able to evaluate. I haven't been in a high school gym since March, late February. So, for us, it's been different. We've watched a ton of film. On kids, high school film, AAU film as well. And just that's been our process of evaluating kids. But, so there's some similarities still. I mean, you still have to do your homework on a kid, background of kid, knowing what about a kid's family, knowing his circle of influence, the people that are around him that's going to have a tremendous impact on his decision, knowing his character. Is something that's really important here at Charlotte. We may take a shortcut on talent, while talent is very important, but we're not going to take any shortcuts on the character piece. So, knowing what a kid is about, recruiting to our pillars, which are the foundation of our program, is something that's really important for us.
All right, so your pillars, can you divulge the secrets? Give us those pillars, man.
Yeah, sure. Humility, servanthood, thankfulness, passion, and unity are kind of the 5 pillars, foundation of our program. And we really recruit to those things. And we believe, being a servant, is the way to greatness. The think less of yourselves and more of others. We believe that, a player that's passionate is very needful to winning here. A player that's humble, not thinking, too high of himself, but not thinking too low of himself. We consider ourselves a counterculture program.
Yeah.
And that we're going to ask things, that society, that's countercultural to society, of our players to do. Really talented player, society would tell him to be served. We're asking him to serve others.
Yeah.
Society would say, be cool. We're saying you need to be passionate. We want a kid that's united, that brings, a team together to pursue one common goal. So it's not easy. But it's really important to us to find kids that fit those things, that align with our values. And we believe that's going to help us, be successful.
Yeah. And there's, you're asking kids to be countercultural. I think it was maybe a year and a half ago, I came up to sit in on a practice and talk about countercultural for me. Coach Sanchez, he asked me to take notes on the practice, and not for me, because I was already taking notes for me, but he wanted some feedback. A coach who's been with all kinds of great coaches, including Tony Bennett at UVA, for him to ask for some feedback from somebody he didn't know me well then. I thought that set the tone that this is a place for everybody to learn. And to me, as a teacher, and for the whole coaching staff, to have that sort of approach towards the game it seems like it allows for the players to also take that approach. When the coach is taking that approach, it allows for the players to take that approach. He also took the water, like the head coach took water out to the players. I know you all did.
Yeah.
But that to me was also like, I don't think this is for show. I think this is really this is just a normal practice, and this is what he does.
Yeah.
And what all of you do. So I thought that was absolutely countercultural.
Yeah, Coach Sanchez is terrific. I mean, he's, as the leader of our program, he believes he's got to be the greatest servant, of them all. And he lives it, and it's real. And he serves our program every day. He serves our student athletes every day. He serves our staff, on a consistent basis. He serves the university, so and that's just the way to greatness. And that's what we believe, and that's what we follow.
And it also now, along with that servanthood, like you've got the passionate part, because here's the deal, like you guys got to win games. You guys got to be competitive. You guys got to, there's still that expectation. And I think we live in such a world that says, well, if you're a servant, then you're not competitive. Or if you're a servant, then you're not, you don't have any fire about you. And that's absolutely not true, because I've also seen those sides of practice where coaches getting into players because they're not giving their best. Yes. And so talk a little bit about that dynamic of how you all teach the servanthood piece, but also bring the fire and the competitiveness that's needed in order to win.
Yeah, that's important. I mean, we believe in competing, every day. Like serving is not a sign of weakness. I think it's a sign of strength. And for an example, Colin, basketball example, if one of our guys, I'll use Jameer Young for an example, if he's meant to be one of our better defenders, and he shows up for practice one day and he's getting his tail kicked and he's not guarding at the level he should, then he's not serving his team. Like that's what he's called to do. If Jordan Shepard's supposed to be, one of our best playmaking guards, and he's not making great decisions in a game, well, then he's not serving his team because he's not doing what he's supposed to do. So it goes beyond, being nice and giving and all that. But each of us have a responsibility, as a team, as a staff, to play to our role. Serving your team is being a star at your role, as well, and whatever that is.
And so there's some accountability that goes along with that servanthood. And accountability is one of the most difficult things, especially for young people to understand. But it's also that accountability is absolutely a sign of strength. And that's also sounds to be like a piece of servanthood there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I've talked to a bunch of coaches that have just, like the COVID stuff and guys having to be out and quarantined, and these guys didn't even have it and they had to quarantine, and what's it going to look like when we only have 7 players that we can practice with, and just the mess that is. But back to the recruiting trail a little bit. Now, getting on a plane doesn't seem like great. Like what's recruiting Charlotte like now? You guys have a ton of talent in that area. There's some great high school basketball and coaches. I believe North Carolina is called the Hoop State. So what is it like recruiting, Charlotte right now? Since you can drive at least.
We're fortunate, to be in such a fertile, recruiting ground. Like we have so many players within, 2 to 3 hour radius of us. And as you're saying, we got so many good players in our backyard. We have 3 Charlotte kids on our roster, currently. So definitely a priority for us. It's been a priority since day one for us, and it will continue to be a priority for us. And I think whenever things get back, to somewhat normal and we're allowed to travel, because we can't travel at all right now, we're fortunate because we can get to so many places so quickly. I do think it's a little risky getting on a plane right now, so it's nice to be able to hop in a car and drive 30 minutes to a high school game, 15 minutes to a high school game, an hour to Greensboro, 4 hours, 5 hours to DC, 4 hours to Virginia, 3 hours to Atlanta, 3.5 hours to Atlanta. So being able to get around in a car and recruit so many players is going to save us fiscally too. I mean, there's risk,
Sure.
obviously, from a health standpoint, but I mean, from a budget standpoint, a lot of programs are being impacted by this, and I think it's going to, save us financially without putting us at a disadvantage, because there are so many good players in the area.
Yeah. And so talk to me about in recruiting those players, like developing relationships with those high school coaches. Like, what is meaningful to you in developing relationships with those coaches? Because I know, you want to be able to trust guys. You don't want to get that phone call of the next best thing, and the kid's not very good. What is it that helps you develop relationships with those guys?
For us, being authentic, being genuine, I think helps get that relationship started. There's so many high school coaches in the area, great high school coaches. And one thing we want to do is just give them access to our program. There's so many times and situations where we've invited coaches over to practice. We've had coaches come over for games. We've scheduled clinics for coaches, outside of practice, and kind of had a recruiting day, high school coaches day, for them. Maybe, you go to dinner and during that clinic, and you get them pizza and you get them some stuff, and you just talk to them. Team camp is something that we're fortunate to have here at Charlotte. And again, so many teams here to year. We can get 60 teams, a year that drive up and back, for our team camp a week. So that's another opportunity to spend so much time, with those coaches. But we want them to have access. We want them to see how we operate, who we are. This is who we are, and hopefully from there that they'll trust us, with some of their kids. And we started that as soon as we got here. Day one for us was get to know those high school coaches, get to know those kids, and it's not just. I think a lot of times college coaches make mistakes, and they only communicate with coaches when they need something. Because the coach may not have a player, this year, but man, he might have a freshman at 3 years, 2-3 years down the road. That kid is making a decision. So, genuine, authentic relationships. And hey, this thing is about, helping people grow. And I think it's our responsibility as coaches to give back, to the game. So it's not always about what is it for us, but it's a genuine interest in giving back.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I played college basketball, was severely under-recruited, Kotie. I was severely under-recruited. And so I was a player who was sending, now this was the time of VHS tapes. I'm sending VHS tapes out to college coaches who have no idea who I am. I'm a 5'7" point guard. And I was not severely under-recruited. I'm just saying, like, what is it if players also want to develop relationships with coaches? If players are saying, hey, I want to go play here, or I love that program, or how often do you actually click on the highlight film that mom and dad just sent? Or how do you guys peel through all of that information? Because you have, hundreds of thousands of players come out every year that want to play at the Division I level. How much of that stuff do you get, and how do you deal with it?
Yeah, no, we do. We get a lot of that, and I think that's important. I think for a player that's interested in playing at this level, like feedback, like it happens all the time. I think last week I got an email from a kid that just wanted feedback. It wasn't necessarily I want to play for you, but like, what do I need to do to get better? I think that's really important. I think with access to emails and social media like Twitter, Instagram, like you can, drop a message, drop a link, into an inbox. Like we see that stuff. I mean, college coaches right now, I can tell you, we're not traveling around the country. So we're not quite as busy, as we was early in the year or when times were normal, so to speak. So, we open those things, we look at those things. If you're not having luck as a player getting through it, I do think sometimes if your coach or there's someone of influence that speaks on your behalf, that helps too, because we do get flooded with emails.
Sure.
And it is easy to miss some. I do sometimes, just because there's so much stuff on our plate still with our current players and navigating through this time. But we open those things and we're open to feedback.
Yeah.
Giving feedback.
That's a note to my younger self. All right. So tell me, you're on year 3 with Coach Sanchez, right?
Yes.
And year 1, certainly the first year for any coach is a challenging year, but there was a significant increase in terms of production for year 2 for you guys. And I don't know exactly, I should have done my research, the wins and losses of year 1, the wins and losses of year 2, but I know that you guys were improved in year 2. What do you attribute that to?
Man, well, I think first we're able to really set the foundation, in year 1. So we lay the foundation, and we have this saying that's dig in, that says dig in. And first, we believe you have to, dig a hole, before you can lay a foundation. So year 1, we spent a lot of time just kind of digging that hole, for most of the year before we're able to build a foundation. But, we did have some roster turnover. I think in year 2 we had, I think it was 8 or 9 players that wore Charlotte jersey, for the first time. So I think, we upgraded our talent. We're able to do that in a short time. And I think a lot of that was because, some players decided they wanted to play elsewhere. Some players eliminated themselves. So we're able to kind of upgrade our roster. So, we had better players. But, for some of the guys that did return, we had a player that I thought was very instrumental in our success this year. Jordan Shepard was a newcomer, but he was a sit-out guy. He was a transfer from Oklahoma. So, having some guys, I think it was like 4 or 5 guys that we had in our system, the year ago. And they understood, what we expected, our expectations as a program. And they're able to carry some of that over to our newcomers, to some of our freshmen, our younger guys. And we feel like, to be a really good program, you have to be player-led. And we had some guys that kind of took on that role for us and helped us grow. And the impact of our freshman, Jameer Young, was awesome. He was freshman of the year. He was an all-conference player as a freshman. So, there's a lot of things. I think having our culture in place, we spent so much time with those guys, talking about, those things. We spent a summer, each week of a summer breaking down, what each pillar means to us. We use examples of, NBA players embodying this pillar, NBA players not doing it. And just giving our guys a platform to, define it themselves. We know what it means to us generically, but there's behavior under each pillar that our guys kind of define themselves, so that they can live it. Again, we strive to be player-led. The best programs are player-led.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they are player-led. And it sounds like you guys are also looking at the long term, and it's hard because in college coaching, being the business that it is, sometimes you don't get long term. Sometimes you don't get that opportunity to take the time to lay the foundation. Sometimes it's win right now. You've got to come in, you've got to win. And it's so in a sense, it sounds like the like Sanchez and the staff are taking a little bit of a risk. And I don't think you guys see it as a risk, but a little bit of a risk of, we're going to take time and lay that foundation, and we're going to build this thing over time, build it over, over a few years as we lay that foundation, as we get the type of players that we want in the program that embody these pillars and whatnot. Like, that takes time.
Yeah, it takes time. And we're, for us, I mean, we won 16 games in year 2, and we finished in the top 4, the Conference USA. The most wins ever at Halton Arena with 13. But for us, we never, we're a process-driven staff.
Yeah.
We never talked about results. We never talked about winning 16, 18, 20 games in year 2. But for us, and this is the message to our guys as well, but failure doesn't really exist. You know what I mean? It's that our approach to everything.
Hold on. Say that again. Failure doesn't really exist.
Yes. It's all about growth. It's a growth mindset for us. Failure doesn't exist. It's growth. It's how do you grow and how do you learn, from those outcomes. So even in year 1, I mean, we lost a lot of games. I think it was 20 or 21. And the way we approach that is that we grow and we learn and we get better for the next time. You know what I mean? So, for us, our message to our guys is, how can we grow, continue to grow, and how can we continue to get better? Because you never really arrive. If we win a Conference USA championship, then people are going to want more. And then now you should win a game in the NCAA tournament. Like, there's always room to grow. As a player, as a coach, like, the moment you think that you arrived is the moment that you're done. I think that mindset is really important. And that's the mindset that we take, with our players.
Yeah, no, I see it, and it's really appealing because it is in some ways countercultural, but it's also when you're looking at long term and something that sticks around for a long time, it takes a while to build that. We've talked a lot about your culture. We've talked a lot about what you all expect from your players and the staff. It's never seemed like you expect things from your players that you don't expect from your staff. We are in a time now with the political nature of things, the social injustice, the racial tension, things that are going on in our country that we've never experienced. You and I, being in our 30s, we've never experienced something like this. What, in this kind of time, what is the conversation like with your players? Do you guys just kind of say, oh, that has nothing to do with basketball, so you guys just rock with basketball? Or like, where do you guys go from there as a staff?
Oh, you're right, Colin. I mean, this is a time like, really no one has ever seen, probably is living. Very few. And I think for us, it's really important in this time, I think, because players are going through a lot right now. I mean, with the social injustice, with COVID, I mean, they can't, mentally, they're in a place where they used to hang out with friends and going out and doing this, and they can't. So players are going through a lot. I think it's really important as coaches to allow them to express how they feel and give them a platform to speak. And that's something that we've really done with our guys. And I think for me as a coach, the one thing that I wanted to do the most is listen and hear them first. I think is really important. And, when you speak of social injustice and racial inequality, I think, in order to eradicate racism, I think you first have to educate. And so I think for us, this is ongoing. This is not, a tweet or one statement, but I think that to educate our players on, what Black Lives Matter look like, to educate our players about, registering to vote, the right to vote, and not just saying go exercise your right to vote, but educate them on who they're voting for, educate them about, each party system and give them, time to choose who they want. Educate your players on John Lewis, a civil right activist. Like, I think it's just that education is piece. Like, we can't eliminate that without really educating them, on several issues. So
Sure.
the platform is really important. I think it's important to really know how your players feel during this time, because this is an unprecedented time. I mean, this is a time like no other, and it's a really difficult time for all student athletes.
Well, and we get this notion from people that are working on the social injustice or that are in politics that athletes shouldn't have anything to say about any of this. And the reality is that all human beings living in our country have thoughts and feelings. And if we don't allow our young people to express those thoughts or their ideas or their questions, right? And it's not just about educating, it's allowing them to search for that too, right? Then we also empower them to make the proper decision regarding themselves. We're allowing them to formulate their ideas. What happens, and I guess I'm going on a little bit of a rant here, what happens is we get people that just follow blindly and they don't choose to educate themselves. They associate with whatever party or whatever religion, whatever that feels most powerful, and then they just go with it. So it's what you guys are doing in terms of having the conversation with your guys and listening and allowing them to express their thoughts and ideas, empowering them to grow into men that make educated decisions instead of just following things blindly or not talking about them at all, which mental health has come up in sports.
Sure.
Thankfully more than ever now, but mental health, because people keep so much inside that it just breaks them down. I so much appreciate how Charlotte runs things. Like I have the ultimate respect for Coach Sanchez and certainly for you and the other Coach Farah, the other guys that I know there. Like, I want you to give some practical advice to a small level college coach, high school coach. What would you say now in terms of how do you keep progressing in your coaching career? What is it that high school coaches need to do that other college coaches need to do to rise up in the ranks or to fulfill their coaching dreams? What's a practical piece of advice that you would leave them with?
Yeah, man. Wow. That's a great question, Colin. For one, I would say, always be a student of the game. This quarantine time has been a terrific time to grow, individually, personal growth, whether it's spiritual, your faith, but, also in the basketball game. I mean, I think it's an opportunity that I've had to watch a ton of clinics. I've listened to a ton of coaches speak on, their philosophies, their thoughts. I've been able to reshape some of my philosophy during this time. So I think there's always ways that you can grow, and there's so much access these days to grow individually. And so just keep sharpening your tools. So when you get the opportunity that whatever that is that you want, that you're ready and that you're prepared and that you won't fail. As far as, and that's probably 50% of it. I think the other 50% is networking, and I don't really like that term. But I think you have to, I'll use a different term. I think you have to continue to grow relationships and reach out, get to know as many people as you can. I think it's important for people to know you. Buzz Peterson, Coach Buzz Peterson, I'll never forget, he told me, but he said, sometimes it's not all about who you know, but it's who know you. And so how can you grow those relationships, ways authentically though? And that's why I use growing relationships as opposed to networking, because I think networking is fake. It's not real. It's, I
Seems
just
like there's an agenda attached to it.
Exactly. There's an agenda to that. But hey, I mean, I enjoy people. I mean, so like for me to reach out to whoever, a search firm guy or whoever that may be in this business is genuinely like, I want to, I enjoy getting to know them, and I want to build an authentic relationship with them. Sure, it may work out that they help me get a head coaching job someday, but hey, it may not. But maybe I have a good friend now,
Right.
So I think you got to really work hard at growing those relationships. It's really important. And I do think that, every job's important. I mean, if you're a high school coach, if you're a JV high school coach, you're a middle school coach, if you're a college coach, be a star at that job. And I mean, we have an opportunity. It's like no other. The impact that we have on young men, that we can have on young men is off the charts. And I think that what we do is special. And I think sometimes we mistake, routine with special. But we're coaching basketball. We're pouring into the lives of others. Like, don't take special for granted. And I heard Jay Billis say that, and I was talking with him a couple of weeks ago, and then he told the story about an opportunity that he had to sit in on one of the first U.S. Olympic men's teams meetings. So Coach K was at the time, it was the year that Paul George got hurt and broke his leg, but he sat in on his first meeting, and at the end of that meeting, Coach K told the team, I want you guys to do one thing for me, and or remember one thing. He's like, do you guys remember the first time we all put on the jersey before some sort? Mine was Church League, Bethlehem Baptist, but I'm just kidding. We all put on the jersey, but the first time that you put on a jersey, how special that was. And so he asked those guys when they left that meeting to go back to their rooms, and that their U.S. Olympic jersey would be laying on their bed. And remember that feeling, the first time you put on that jersey, and how special that was. And so often, and I say this again, that we mistake special for a routine. We do this every day, and it just becomes routine. And sometimes you don't realize how special it really is. So I think being a coach and having this opportunity is so, so special. And to me, it's just like, man, don't take this for granted. Like, this is an opportunity that you have to really prepare kids to live a life of impact, beyond basketball. And it's something that I hold in high regard.
I love it, man. Don't take it for granted, and excel where you are. That's almost our nature to be like, I'm a JV coach. I really want to be a varsity coach, or I'm a high school coach. I really want to get into college, or I'm a mid-major coach. I want to coach at the high major level, and really just excelling where you are. And I think we can honestly, like that, obviously that goes beyond basketball. Excel where we are, all of us excel where we are. And certainly the COVID pandemic has allowed us all to have a little bit of time to remember how much we love this game, remember how much we love what we do.
Sure.
Right? Because sometimes absence makes the heart grow fonder.
Yeah.
Kotie, I appreciate you taking time with us, man. And certainly best of luck to you guys at Charlotte and everything that you're doing in this time. But I really, really appreciate how you guys lead and what you're doing with those young men. Keep up the good work, my man.
Thanks again for having me on. Always a pleasure.
You bet, my man. All right, brother.
All right.
We'll talk soon.